The firefight erupted without warning. 1 second, the convoy was rolling through the Syrian desert at dawn. The next, the lead MRAP exploded in a fireball that sent the vehicle flipping end over end, RPG smoke trails still visible in the air. "Contact front, RPG and small arms." The SEAL team leader's voice crackled over the radio as AK-47 fire raked across the convoy. "All vehicles, return fire and get to cover." Petty Officer Jasmine Reed felt the adrenaline hit her system as she pressed herself against the medical supply crates in the back of the third vehicle. She was a Navy nurse, Hospital Corpsman First Class, assigned to SEAL Team 3 for this humanitarian aid mission. She'd trained for combat, sure, but always from behind the lines, always in field hospitals, always treating casualties after they'd been brought to safety. She'd never been in the middle of an actual firefight, until now. The driver of her vehicle was screaming into the radio. "Vehicle 1 is down. Multiple casualties. We need immediate—" An RPG hit the second vehicle. The explosion rocked their truck sideways. The driver slumped over the wheel, blood spreading across his shoulder. The gunner in the turret collapsed, hit by small arms fire. Jasmine looked out through the bullet-riddled windows. The SEALs were returning fire, but they were pinned down. The lead vehicle was burning with wounded inside. The second vehicle was disabled with casualties visible, and her vehicle's driver and gunner were down. She heard Chief Petty Officer Marcus Stone's voice over the radio. "We've got mass casualties. Where's our corpsman?" Jasmine keyed her radio, her voice steady despite her heart hammering. "This is Doc Reed. I'm in Vehicle 3. Both my driver and gunner are hit." "Doc, stay down. This is a hot zone. We'll get to you when—" Another explosion cut off his transmission. Jasmine watched through the window as a SEAL went down, clutching his leg. Then another dropped, hit in the shoulder. 5 casualties that she could see, maybe more, in the lead vehicle, and she was sitting in the back of a truck with medical supplies while SEALs were bleeding out. The hell with that. Jasmine grabbed her medical pack, checked her sidearm, a M9 Beretta she'd been issued but never fired in combat, and kicked open the back door of the vehicle. "Doc, get back inside!" someone screamed over the radio. She ignored them. She had wounded to treat. That was her job. The fact that bullets were flying and RPGs were exploding just meant she needed to work faster. What happened in the next 13 minutes would prove that combat nurses don't just save lives behind the lines. Sometimes they save lives while fighting on the front lines. But before we show you how a Navy nurse treated 5 critically wounded SEALs while engaging enemy fighters, earned her combat medical badge in the most violent way possible, and made an entire SEAL team realize they'd never seen a corpsman like her before, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and smash that subscribe button. Because this story proves that the most dangerous person on any battlefield might be the one trying to save lives instead of take them. Now let's get into it. 06:27 hours. The ambush. The mission had been straightforward: deliver medical supplies to a refugee camp 40 kilometers inside Syrian territory, conduct basic health assessments, then get out before anyone noticed. The SEAL team was there for security, 12 operators in 3 vehicles providing protection for the medical convoy. Intelligence said the route was clear. Intelligence was wrong. The enemy had set up a perfect ambush at a narrow valley pass. RPGs from both sides of the road, followed by withering small arms fire from prepared positions on the ridges above. The lead MRAP had taken the first RPG directly to its engine block. The explosion had been catastrophic. The vehicle had flipped, rolled, and come to rest on its side. At least 4 SEALs were inside, status unknown. The second vehicle had been hit in the rear, destroying the wheels and transmission. It wasn't burning, but it wasn't moving either. 2 SEALs were down near it, trying to drag wounded teammates to cover. Jasmine's vehicle had been third in line. They'd stopped when the lead vehicle exploded, which meant they were sitting ducks in the middle of the kill zone. She assessed the situation in seconds. Casualties visible. Lead vehicle, 4 SEALs. Unknown status, vehicle burning. Second vehicle area, 2 SEALs down, 1 with leg wound, 1 with shoulder wound. Her vehicle, driver, shoulder wound, gunner, head wound, critical. Minimum 8 casualties, possibly more enemy force. RPG teams on both ridges, at least 2 teams. Small arms fire from multiple positions, estimated 15 to 20 fighters. Prepared defensive positions with cover. High ground advantage. Enemy force. RPG teams on both ridges, at least 2 teams. Small arms fire from multiple positions, estimated 15 to 20 fighters. Prepared defensive positions with cover. High ground advantage, friendly forces. Approximately 8 remaining effective SEALs, pinned down behind vehicles. Taking casualties. No air support available for 20 minutes minimum medical supplies. Full combat medical pack in her vehicle. Additional supplies in vehicles. Morphine, tourniquets, chest seals, pressure bandages. Everything she needed except time and safety. Jasmine grabbed her medical pack, secured her M9 pistol in her thigh holster, and opened the door. The volume of fire was incredible. A K-47 rounds cracked through the air, impacted the vehicles, kicked up dirt all around. She could hear the SEALs returning fire, the distinctive crack of M4 rifles, and the heavier thump of the .50 caliber machine gun from one of the surviving vehicle turrets. She ran in a crouch toward the nearest casualty, Petty Officer Jake Morrison, lying behind the second vehicle with a tourniquet already applied to his left leg. The tourniquet had been hastily applied, probably by Morrison himself. It was working, but needed adjustment. Jasmine slid into cover beside him as rounds impacted the vehicle above them. "Morrison, how you doing?" "Doc?" He looked shocked to see her. "What the hell are you doing out here? Get back to your vehicle." "I'm a corpsman. You're wounded. Do the math." She was already cutting away his pant leg, assessing the wound. "This is a femoral artery hit. Your tourniquet saved your life, but we need to pack this wound and get you stabilized." "Doc, there's guys worse off than me. Petty Officer Chen took a round to the chest. I'll get to him. Stay still." She worked fast, using hemostatic gauze to pack the wound, then securing a pressure dressing over it. The tourniquet stayed in place, but she loosened it slightly. He'd had it cranked down so tight he was going to lose the leg if it stayed that way. "Okay, you're stable for now. Don't move. Where's Chen?" Morrison pointed to the far side of the vehicle. "Around there. But Doc, you can't. There's no cover that way. You'll get—" Jasmine was already moving. She low-crawled around the vehicle, using it for cover from the ridge fire. She found Petty Officer David Chen lying against the wheel well, clutching his chest, blood spreading across his vest. "Chen, I'm here. Let me see." She pulled his hands away from the wound. Chest wound, right side, bubbling blood-sucking chest wound. The bullet had penetrated his lung, creating an opening that was compromising his breathing. She worked on autopilot, training taking over chest seal from her pack, applied directly over the wound, creating an airtight seal. Chen gasped, his breathing immediately improving as the seal prevented air from being sucked into his chest cavity. "You're going to be okay," she told him, her voice calm despite the chaos around them. "Chest seal is in place. You're breathing better already. Just stay calm and don't move." An RPG whooshed overhead, impacting somewhere behind them. The explosion was close enough to shower them with debris. Jasmine keyed her radio. "This is Doc Reed. I've got 2 casualties stabilized at Vehicle 2. I need a status on Vehicle 1. How many wounded?" Chief Stone's voice came back, strained. "Doc, Vehicle 1 has 4 inside. We can't get to them. It's on fire and we're taking too much enemy fire to approach. We need—" An explosion cut him off. Jasmine looked toward Vehicle 1. The fire was spreading, black smoke pouring from the overturned MRAP. If there were SEALs alive inside, they had minutes before the fire reached the fuel tanks. She made her decision in 2 seconds. "Chief, I'm going for Vehicle 1. "Negative. Doc, that vehicle is about to explode. You can't—" "I'm the only corpsman here, Chief. If there are wounded in that vehicle, I'm getting them out." "Doc, that's a direct—" She switched off the radio and ran. 0632 hours. Vehicle 1, rescue. The distance from Vehicle 2 to Vehicle 1 was maybe 50 meters. In normal circumstances, a 10-second sprint. Under heavy fire with an overturned burning vehicle as the destination, it felt like 50 miles. Jasmine ran in a serpentine pattern, making herself a harder target. Rounds cracked past her. She heard someone screaming at her to get back, but she couldn't stop. She was committed. She reached the overturned MRAP and pressed herself against it. The heat from the fire was intense. She could feel it through her uniform. She could hear someone inside screaming. The rear door was jammed. The explosion and rollover had warped the frame. She pulled on it with everything she had. It didn't budge. "Someone's trying the door," a voice from inside shouted. "Get us out of here." Jasmine looked around frantically. She spotted a pry bar that had been thrown from the vehicle during the rollover. She grabbed it, jammed it into the doorframe, and leveraged with all her strength. The door groaned, shifted, but didn't open. Enemy fire was still intense. Rounds sparked off the overturned vehicle. An RPG impacted 30 meters away. She leveraged again, putting her entire body weight into it. The door shifted more. Third attempt. The door flew open. Inside was chaos. 4 SEALs, all wounded to varying degrees. Petty Officer James Rodriguez was closest to the door, conscious but with a compound fracture of his left arm, bone visible through the skin. Behind him, 2 more SEALs were unconscious, one with a head wound, one with severe burns. The 4th was trapped under debris, legs pinned. "Doc!" Rodriguez's relief was obvious. "Thank God, we thought, save it. We need to get you out now. This thing's going to explode." She grabbed Rodriguez by his good arm and pulled him toward the door. He scrambled out with her help. "Can you walk?" "Yeah, but my arm. I'll fix it when we're not about to blow up. Get to cover behind vehicle 2. Go!" Rodriguez ran, clutching his broken arm. Jasmine climbed into the burning vehicle. The heat was overwhelming. Smoke filled the interior, making it hard to breathe and see. She reached the first unconscious SEAL, Petty Officer Mike Stevens. Head wound, bleeding heavily but breathing. She checked his airway. Clear. She grabbed him under the arms and dragged him toward the door. He was a dead weight, maybe 200 pounds with gear. She used every technique she'd learned in training, leveraging her body position, using her legs instead of her back. She got him to the door and pulled him through, then dragged him 10 meters away from the vehicle before going back. The second unconscious SEAL, Petty Officer Tom Wilson, had severe burns on his face and hands. He was breathing but barely. She grabbed him, started dragging. Halfway to the door, he opened his eyes. "Doc?" "Stay calm. I'm getting you out." She got him to the door, out, away from the vehicle. 2 down, 1 to go, back inside. The 4th SEAL, Petty Officer Ryan Foster, was trapped under a section of the vehicle's interior that had collapsed during the rollover. His legs were pinned from the knees down. "I can't feel my legs," Foster said, his voice tight with pain and fear. "You're going to be fine. I'm going to get you out." She assessed the situation. The debris was heavy. Part of the turret assembly had collapsed inward. She couldn't lift it alone. She keyed her radio. "I need 2 men at Vehicle 1 now. I've got 1 casualty trapped and I can't move the debris alone." "Doc, that vehicle is going to—" "Now, Chief, I'm not leaving him!" 10 seconds later, 2 SEALs appeared, Chief Stone himself and Petty Officer Jake Morrison, limping on his wounded leg but moving. "You're insane," Chief Stone said as he climbed into the burning vehicle. "Absolutely insane. Move over." Together, the 3 of them leveraged the debris. It shifted, lifted. Foster pulled his legs free. Both were broken, but he was free. They dragged him out and away from the vehicle just as the fire reached something critical inside. The MRAP didn't explode like in movies. It just burned hotter, flames roaring up from the interior. But they were clear. All 4 SEALs from Vehicle 1 were out, all alive. Jasmine immediately started triage. Stevens was most critical. Head wound, unconscious, possible traumatic brain injury. She applied pressure to the wound, wrapped his head, checked his pupils, unequal dilation, definitely a TBI, but survivable if they could get him to surgery. Wilson's burns were serious, but not immediately life-threatening. She applied burn dressings to his face and hands, gave him morphine for the pain. Foster's broken legs were obvious, compound fractures of both tibias. She splinted them as well as she could with materials from her pack and sections of a broken rifle stock. Rodriguez's arm was the easiest, a straightforward compound fracture of the radius and ulna. She splinted it, gave him morphine, told him to stay still. She'd been working for 6 minutes. She had 7 casualties stabilized, but the firefight was still raging, and she could hear Chief Stone on the radio calling for more help. "Doc!" the chief was shouting from behind Vehicle 2. "We've got 2 more down. Enemy pushed closer and we took casualties, returning fire." Jasmine grabbed her medical pack and ran toward Vehicle 2 again. This time, enemy fighters saw her movement. AK-47 fire tracked her position, rounds kicking up dirt at her feet. She dove behind the vehicle as a round sparked off the metal above her. 2 more casualties, Petty Officer Sarah Martinez with a through-and-through gunshot wound to her abdomen, and Petty Officer Chris Evans with a shattered knee from a ricochet. Jasmine went to work. Martinez first. Abdominal wounds were time-critical. She packed the wound with hemostatic gauze, applied pressure bandages to both entry and exit wounds, started an IV for fluid replacement. Evans' knee was destroyed. The kneecap was shattered, ligaments torn. She couldn't do much except stabilize it, give him morphine, and mark him for immediate surgical evacuation. 9 casualties treated. Still under fire, and she was running low on critical supplies. 0638 hours. The counterattack. Chief Stone found her while she was working on Evans. "Doc, we've got a problem. We're pinned down, low on ammo, and air support is still 15 minutes out. We can't hold this position much longer, and we can't move the wounded without getting them killed." Jasmine looked at the tactical situation. The enemy was on the ridges above them, firing down. The SEALs were behind the vehicles, returning fire but unable to advance. The wounded were scattered across the position, unable to move on their own. "Chief, what if we suppress those ridge positions long enough for you to flank them?" "With what? We're down to half strength and you've got a .50 caliber still operational on Vehicle 3, right?" "Yeah, but the gunner was hit. Nobody else is trained on—" "I am." Chief Stone stared at her. "You're trained on a Ma Deuce?" "All corpsmen get basic weapons training. I've qualified on the M2 Browning. Not expert level, but I can put rounds downrange and keep heads down." "Doc, you're a corpsman. You're supposed to be saving lives, not—" "Chief, I've stabilized 9 casualties in the last 12 minutes, but if we don't break this ambush, they're going to die anyway when the enemy overruns our position or when Vehicle 1's fuel tank finally explodes. We need to do something aggressive. Let me suppress the enemy positions. You take your remaining effectives and flank them from the south side. We end this ambush in the next few minutes, or we're all dead." Chief Stone looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "You got balls, Doc. Get on that gun. Give me 30 seconds to get my people positioned, then light up that eastern ridge. Pour everything you've got into it. Make them keep their heads down." Jasmine ran to Vehicle 3. The gunner's body was still in the turret. Petty Officer Daniel Lee, killed in the initial ambush. She pulled him down gently, closed his eyes, then climbed up to take his position. The M2 Browning .50 caliber machine gun was a beast of a weapon, belt-fed, air-cooled, capable of firing 550 rounds per minute of .50 caliber ammunition that could punch through light armor and concrete. It was designed for vehicle and aircraft destruction, but it worked just fine on infantry positions too. Jasmine checked the weapon. Belt loaded, action clear, sights aligned. She positioned herself behind the gun, gripped the spade handles, aimed at the eastern ridge where the heaviest enemy fire was coming from. She keyed her radio. "Chief, I'm in position, ready when you are." 30 seconds, Doc, make it count." Jasmine controlled her breathing. She'd fired the M2 in training, but never in combat. The weapon had a learning curve, the recoil was intense, the rate of fire required discipline to control, and the sound was deafening. But she'd trained for this. All corpsmen did. Because sometimes saving lives meant taking them. "Doc, execute, execute, execute." Jasmine pressed the trigger. The M2 roared to life. The recoil hammered into her shoulders, but she held the weapon steady, walking the tracers across the eastern ridge. 50 caliber rounds tore into the enemy positions, splintering rocks, destroying cover, forcing fighters to duck or die. She fired in controlled bursts, just like training 5-second bursts. Adjust aim, fire again. The tracers showed her where the rounds were going. She walked them across each visible enemy position, systematically suppressing the entire ridge. The volume of enemy return fire dropped dramatically. With their heads down, they couldn't shoot accurately. On the southern flank, Chief Stone and 4 SEALs were moving. They advanced in fire teams, 2 moving while 2 provided cover, classic bounding Overwatch maneuver. The enemy was focused on the .50 caliber fire from Jasmine's position and didn't see the flanking movement until it was too late. The SEALs hit the enemy positions with grenades and rifle fire. Jasmine could hear the explosions, see the enemy fighters breaking and running. She shifted her fire to support the SEAL advance, putting rounds into enemy fighters trying to escape or reposition. The M2's .50 caliber rounds were devastating. Anyone hit by them simply ceased to exist as a threat. The firefight lasted another 4 minutes, then suddenly it was over. The enemy was retreating, running down the far side of the ridges, leaving their dead and wounded behind. Chief Stone's voice came over the radio. "Cease fire! Cease fire! Enemy is retreating! Doc, you can stop shooting now!" Jasmine released the trigger. Her ears were ringing, her shoulders aching from the recoil, her hands shaking from adrenaline. She just fired approximately 200 rounds of .50 caliber ammunition at enemy positions. She had no idea how many she'd hit, but the suppressive fire had been effective enough to break the ambush. She climbed down from the turret and immediately went back to medic mode. "Status on casualties, anyone hit during the assault?" "Negative, no additional casualties, thanks to you keeping their heads down." Air support arrived 7 minutes later, 2 Apache helicopters that provided overwatch while medical evacuation helicopters landed. Jasmine supervised the loading of all 9 casualties, giving detailed handoff reports to the flight medics on each patient's injuries and treatment. The last casualty was loaded. The helicopters lifted off. And only then did Jasmine let herself stop, lean against the vehicle, and take a breath. Chief Stone approached her. "Doc Reed, I need to say something." "Chief, if this is about me leaving my vehicle, that's exactly what this is about. You left your vehicle against direct orders. You ran into a burning vehicle that was about to explode. You treated 9 casualties while under fire. You got on a .50 caliber and provided suppressive fire during our counterattack." Jasmine waited for the reprimand, for the official criticism about a corpsman engaging in direct combat. "That's the finest display of combat medicine and sheer guts I've seen in 20 years of special operations," Chief Stone said. "You saved 9 lives today, probably saved all of our lives by breaking that ambush. I'm recommending you for the Combat Medical Badge and a Bronze Star with V device for valor." "Chief, I was just doing my job. Your job is to treat casualties. What you did today, running into fire, pulling people out of burning vehicles, getting on a crew-served weapon to support our counterattack, that was way beyond your job description. That was heroism." The rest of the SEAL team gathered around. Petty Officer Morrison, his leg bandaged, limped over. "Doc, you're officially adopted into this team. Any SEAL element I'm on, I want you as our corpsman. You're one of us now." The others nodded, murmured agreement. For SEALs to accept a corpsman as one of us was the highest honor they could give. Aftermath. 3 days later, Jasmine sat through extensive debriefs. Command wanted to know every detail, how she'd treated 9 casualties, how she'd pulled 4 men from a burning vehicle, how she'd ended up firing a .50 caliber machine gun in combat. The timeline was reconstructed. Minute 0 to 2. Initial ambush, casualties taken, Jasmine exits vehicle minute 2 to 4. First 2 casualties treated, Morrison and Chen, minute 4 to 10. 4 casualties extracted from burning vehicle 1 minute 10 to 11. 2 additional casualties treated, Martinez and Evans, minute 11 to 13. Provides .50 caliber suppressive fire, supporting SEAL counterattack. Total time from ambush start to firefight end, 13 minutes. The battalion commander reviewed her actions. Hospital Corpsman, First Class Reed. In 13 minutes, you treated 9 combat casualties with a 100% survival rate, conducted a rescue operation under fire, and provided direct fire support using a crew-served weapon. This is extraordinary. Sir, I just did what needed to be done. What needed to be done was heroic. The Combat Medical Badge is awarded to medical personnel who actively engage in ground combat. You've more than earned it. The Bronze Star with V device is recommended for conspicuous gallantry. You repeatedly exposed yourself to enemy fire to treat wounded, conducted a rescue operation that saved 4 lives, and provided fire support that broke the enemy ambush. The award ceremony was held 1 week later. All 9 SEALs she'd treated were there, recovered or recovering from their wounds. When the commander pinned the Combat Medical Badge on her uniform, the SEALs gave her a standing ovation. Chief Stone spoke at the ceremony. I've worked with dozens of corpsmen over 20 years in special operations. Hospital Corpsman Reed did something in 13 minutes that most corpsmen never do in entire careers. She proved that corpsmen aren't just medical support. They're warriors who save lives while fighting alongside us. She's earned the respect of every operator in this command. After the ceremony, Rodriguez, the SEAL with the broken arm she'd pulled from the burning vehicle, approached her. Doc, I want you to know something. When I was trapped in that vehicle, I thought I was done. The fire was spreading, we couldn't get the door open, and I was thinking about my wife and kids. Then, you showed up and kicked that door open like it owed you money. You saved my life. You saved all of our lives. That's what corpsmen do, Jasmine said simply. No. Most corpsmen treat casualties after they're brought to safety. You ran into the fight to get us. That's different. That's special. 6 months later, Jasmine was promoted to Chief Petty Officer and assigned as the senior medical provider for SEAL Team 3. She deployed with them on 4 more operations over the next 6 months. On one mission, the team was ambushed again. This time, when casualties started mounting, Chief Stone looked at Jasmine and said, Doc, we need... She was already moving, medical pack in hand, before he could finish. She treated 3 casualties while under fire, then got on a vehicle-mounted M240 machine gun to provide suppressive fire while the SEALs maneuvered. After the firefight, one of the new team members, a SEAL who hadn't been on the original mission, asked the veterans, "Why does our corpsman fight like an operator?" Chief Stone answered, "Because she earned her Combat Medical Badge in 13 minutes of the most intense combat any of us have seen. She doesn't just save lives, she fights for them. That's the kind of corpsman you want when things go bad." The story of the fighting corpsman spread through the SEAL community. Other teams requested her for high-risk operations. She became known as the corpsman who'd treat your wounds while engaging the enemy, who'd pull you from burning vehicles, who'd get on a .50 caliber if that's what the mission required. But Jasmine never saw herself as special. "I'm a corpsman," she'd say when people called her a hero. "My job is to save lives. Sometimes that means treating wounds. Sometimes that means pulling people from burning vehicles. Sometimes that means providing fire support so the team can win the fight. Whatever the mission requires, that's what corpsmen do." The legacy. Jasmine's actions in those 13 minutes changed how the Navy viewed combat corpsman training was updated to include more aggressive combat scenarios. Corpsmen were given more extensive weapons training. The expectations shifted. Corpsmen weren't just medical support. They were integral members of combat teams who could fight while saving lives. Her after-action report became required reading at Navy medical training schools. Instructors would tell students, "This is what a combat corpsman looks like." Hospital Corpsman Reed didn't wait for the fight to end. She went into the fight, treated casualties, conducted rescues, and provided fire support. She saved 9 lives and helped break an enemy ambush. That's the standard. The 9 SEALs she saved that day all remained in contact with her. They called her Doc, with a level of respect that went beyond rank or role. To them, she wasn't just their corpsman. She was the warrior who'd proven that medical personnel could fight as hard as any operator. Rodriguez, the SEAL she'd pulled from the burning vehicle, named his daughter Jasmine in her honor. You gave me the chance to meet her, he told her at the christening. Seemed only right to name her after the person who saved my life. The truth about combat corpsmen. The SEALs never saw a nurse fight before Jasmine because most corpsmen operated from field hospitals, treating casualties after they'd been evacuated from combat zones. That was the traditional role: stay safe, treat wounded, save lives from behind the lines. Jasmine proved there was another way. That corpsman could go into the fight, operate under fire, treat casualties in the middle of combat, and even engage the enemy when necessary to protect their patients and teammates. She earned her combat medical badge in 13 minutes. That included treating 9 combat casualties with 100% survival rate, conducting rescue operation in burning vehicle, providing .50 caliber suppressive fire, operating under continuous enemy fire, executing combat medicine at the highest level. The SEALs learned that day that their nurse wasn't just medical support. She was a warrior who saved lives while fighting alongside them. Hospital corpsman. Chief Jasmine Reed proved that the most dangerous person on the battlefield might be the one trying to save lives, because she'll run into fire to reach you, fight through enemies to treat you, and kill anyone who tries to stop her from keeping you alive. That's what combat corpsmen do, and Jasmine did it better than most had ever seen. 13 minutes, 9 lives saved, 1 combat medical badge earned, and a lifetime of respect from every SEAL who watched a nurse become a legend. 30 years later, the ultimate legacy. Hospital corpsman first class, Jasmine Cross, daughter of Petty Officer Liam Cross and namesake of Chief Jasmine Reed, stood in the Syrian desert treating casualties from her own SEAL team after an ambush strikingly similar to the one 30 years earlier. She'd just pulled 2 wounded SEALs from a burning vehicle. Her hands were covered in blood, bullets were still flying, and she'd made the same decision her namesake had made 3 decades before. The mission required her in the fight, not hiding behind cover. As she worked on a sucking chest wound, applying a chest seal while rounds impacted around her position, she heard her team leader's voice. "Doc Cross, you're just like the original Doc Reed, same guts, same refusal to quit." Jasmine Cross looked up from her patient, sweat and dirt streaking her face. "Chief Reed taught me something when I was 10 years old. She said, 'Be better than me.' That's how we honor those who came before, by being better than they were." She finished treating the casualty, then grabbed her M4 rifle and provided covering fire, while her team maneuvered just like Chief Reed had done, just like every corpsman should do when the mission requires it. Later, when someone asked if she felt pressure living up to her namesake's legacy, she smiled. Chief Reed didn't create a legacy for one person. She created a standard for all corpsmen. Every time a corpsman runs into danger to save a teammate, every time we fight to keep our warriors alive, that's the legacy. It's not about one person or one 13-minute period. It's about what corpsmen do every day in every fight. We save lives. We fight for our patients. We never quit. That's the standard Chief Reed set. That's the standard I'm proud to uphold. The legacy wasn't just remembered, it was lived every single day, by every corpsman who refused to accept that saving lives meant staying safe. Thanks for watching. Every woman has a story worth telling. Join us to hear them all.